Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to discuss some important questions of social science, particularly for the board exam, and I'm sure that all of you are doing well. You have done well your exam, and in social science, I'm sure that this time question paper will be a bit easy. However, you should never take any chance. You have to read the textbook thoroughly, again and again read the textbook, and you have to know how to write the questions answer. So many students, what they do in exam, out of frustration or nervousness, sometimes they don't read the questions properly, and as a result of this they do mistakes. So what is most important is that you have to read the question paper properly. 15 minutes time is allotted to read the question paper, so make sure that you are reading the questions properly again and again. Okay, and you have to write point wise, particularly 5 markers questions you have to write in points. For that you can write one small introduction, and then you can give one small conclusion also, and 5 points explain well. You need not have to write anything more, to the point answer is expected. Underline the keyword is always appreciated. So these are the few things that you have to follow in order to score good marks, and you do not have to write unnecessary lengthy answer. So make sure that all the points are underlined, and side headings if you can give, that is uh, much better. So that will definitely um, help you in scoring marks. So let me see which all important questions are there in this chapter. So first let me discuss the Balkan regions. From this one question you can expect: how did the Balkan region become a source of nationalist tension in Europe after 1871? Or describe the explosive conditions that prevailed in Balkans after 1871 in Europe. So first let us see which part of Europe is called as Balkan. Balkan was a region of geographical and ethnical variation comprising modern-day Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, Greece, Macedonia, Croatia, Bosnia-Herzegovina, Slovenia, Serbia, Montenegro, whose inhabitants were known as Slavs. Remember, it's not slave, it's Slavs. The people, those who speak Slavic language, they are known as Slavs. And in Europe, particularly the Central and Eastern Europe, uh, the main language is Slavic language. So the inhabitants of this region are known as Slavs. A large part of Balkan was under the control of Ottoman Empire right from the 16th century. And when the nationalist movement started, there was a spread of romantic nationalism even in Balkan kingdom also. They also realized that they should not remain under the control of Ottoman Empire. So they also started consciousness. They also started, um, you know, spreading the feeling of belongingness. However, different Slavic nationalisms struggled to define their identity and independence, and Balkan area became an area of intense conflict. There was no unity. There was no unity and integrity among the Balkan kingdoms. Each one of them wanted to define their own identity. So obviously, as a result of this, there was jealousy, there was conflict among themselves, and as a result of this, the other part of Europe, which was more prosperous, and they got economic development much earlier. Okay, so they for them it was the Balkan region became an easy target. Each one of them wanted to expand their colonialism and imperialistic policy over Balkan kingdoms. Balkan states were jealous of each other, and each of them hoped to gain more territory at the expense of others. So that made that made Balkan an intense war zone. European countries like Russia, Germany, England, Austria-Hungary, who got economic development earlier, they became a nation state earlier. So later on, what they did, they wanted to control over the other countries, so as to get the resource, so as to get control over the resources of other countries. So particularly in 19th century, each of those European countries had an intention to expand colonialism. They wanted to control the poor countries or less developed or backward countries of Europe, Africa, and Asia, so as to get wealth and resources of those countries. So that very effort of all those developed countries of Europe, led to a series of wars, and that eventually started First World War. So these all points you have to write, and on the top of that you have to write one conclusion and one introduction. Always is good for the 5 markers. So from this chapter there are so many other important questions. Important questions like you can expect like German unification, Italian unification, and then the romantic nationalism, and what were the factors that affected the rise of nationalism in Europe. So all those factors that affected the rise of nationalism you have to write. The next chapter is rise of nationalism in India. Sorry, nationalism in India. From this chapter, non-cooperation movement is very important. When did Gandhiji? Why did Gandhiji launch non-cooperation movement? And what was the reason that Gandhiji called off non-cooperation movement? That is one important question. And then non-cooperation movement was launched, and after uh, you know only after 1 year, within a year you can say, non-cooperation movement was called off. So what were the reasons behind that, why the non-cooperation movement lost its momentums? So all these points you have to go through properly. And then non-cooperation movement was interpreted differently by different social groups, like our peasants had a particular type of interpretation of non-cooperation movement. Then tea plantation, Assam tea plantation laborers had a different interpretation. Awadh, then Gudam Hill, tribal people of Gudam Hill had different interpretations. So all those interpretation you have to learn properly. And in this regard, I want to tell you that many students do mistake in plantation workers and Gudam Hill tribals. Okay, so plantation workers in Assam, they are different, in a different way they interpreted the meaning of non-cooperation movement. And Gudam Hill, Andhra Pradesh rebellions had a different interpretation. In Gudam Hill, rebellion was led by Alluri Sitaram Raju, and in Assam, plantation workers, there was no such remarkable uh, figure in Assam, and they had a different problem. So each one of those social groups, they tried to link their problem with the non-cooperation movement. They didn't want to understand what was the actual meaning of non-cooperation and why Gandhiji actually launched the non-cooperation movement. In case of Awadh also, we have seen that they tried to link non-cooperation movement with their practical problem. So in case of Awadh, what we have seen that the peasants in Awadh were mostly affected by the rise of prices. They were worst hit by the epidemic, and as a result of this, the price went high, and they had to pay high taxes. Rent on land was very high, so it was very much difficult for the peasants to fulfill the revenue demand of the British or the local talukdars. Those talukdars were the agents of the British, so they used to listen what the Britishers were telling, what Britishers were ordering, and they were very much ruthless to the peasants. So most of them, peasants most of the time found it very difficult to fulfill the revenue demand. So when the non-cooperation movement started, they thought that they need not have to pay rent on land, and they started attacking the talukdars. They looted the bazaars, and for every such incident, they took the name of Gandhiji. So this was how they interpreted the non-cooperation movement. And in case of Awadh, the peasant movement was led by Baba Ramchandra. So Baba Ramchandra was the key figure in case of Awadh. Okay, and he founded one Oath Kisan Sabha, okay, along with Jawaharlal Nehru. So you have to write all those points. How was non-cooperation movement interpreted by different social groups? Okay, so question might be little twisted. You have to read properly, then you will understand. uh, so if any such kind of question comes, so all the different interpretations you have to write to get the 5 marks. Main points you have to write. It's not necessary that everything you have to explain full detail, so key points you have to write. And particularly the interpretation of non-cooperation movement is important for 3 marks also, each of those interpretation. How non-cooperation movement was interpreted by the peasants in Awadh, you might get for 3 marks. And how the non-cooperation movement was interpreted by the plantation workers in Assam, and for the Gudam Hill peasant, for Gudam Hill tribal people. In Gudam Hill, tribal people. Gudam Hill in Andhra Pradesh. Gudam Hill is in Andhra Pradesh, that you have to remember. And there, the main resistance was from the tribal people, because you know when the Britisher came, uh, the tribal people were worst affected because of the policies, one after another forest policies that British introduced, that made livelihood of the tribal people very difficult. Okay, so they took revenge against the Britishers, and Alluri Sitaram Raju was the leader. He was a person, who had divine power, and he claimed that he could heal people, and he could do the miracles. So you have to learn about Alluri Sitaram Raju. Okay, so that might be one question. And then you can always expect one question for 5 marks from civil disobedience movement. Civil disobedience movement started with Salt March. So any question related to Salt March or civil disobedience movement, you can expect. So here, um, I have written this question: discuss the Salt March to make it clear why it was an effective symbol of resistance against colonialism. So salt was a symbol of resistance against colonialism. Gandhiji wanted to link the movement after the uh, non-cooperation movement was, almost it was failed, and it could not achieve its target. So Gandhiji waited for few years, and then he thought that he should link non-cooperation. He should link the movement with the practical problems, and uh, he actually wanted to expose the ugliest face of the British colonial government. because they were imposing high taxes on salt. Salt is something which is freely available, and imposing high tax on salt, that was the ugly face of the British, and that's what he wanted to expose. British had the monopoly right to manufacture salt. No other Indian companies were allowed to manufacture salt, and as a result of this, they used to impose high taxes. And because of this, salt was very much expensive, and salt is something which is an important ingredient for everyone, isn't it? So Gandhiji wanted to expose it, that in what way British was exploiting Indians, and for that, he wrote a letter demanding the removal of the salt tax and some other demands, 11 demands actually. He kept in front of Viceroy Irwin, but he didn't respond, and after that only Gandhiji started the salt march. So here you can see the textbook also, it is there when salt march started, the date, and then how Gandhiji got the response from the various sector of people, that you can write. And then uh, after the salt law was violated, then how the civil disobedience movement started, because uh, you know s- uh, that was a symbolic start. Violation of the salt law was a beginning of the civil disobedience movement. After that, the violation of the salt tax, many other laws were broken in different part of the country. People started entering into the reserved forest, uh, and then in villages, people rejected the chowkidari taxes. Like that, many uh, other laws were violated. So civil disobedience movement is all about violating the laws that British government made. So many students get confused with civil disobedience and non-cooperation. Civil disobedience more about more about breaking the laws. Okay, which all laws were against the interest of the Indians were broken. Okay, during that, whether it was salt tax or the chowkidari tax or the forest laws, all those laws were broken. Along with that, people also rejected the foreign clothes and bonfire they organized during civil disobedience movement also. Now, civil disobedience movement is an important question, and the salt march is one important question, one broad question you can expect from salt march. And then when the civil disobedience movement, different social groups responded differently, and that also you can expect, like how industrialists and the big uh, that farmers, how they responded when Gandhiji first time launched the civil disobedience movement in the year 1930. And again, what were the reasons that uh, you know civil disobedience movement again was not successful? So these all things you have to learn very well. Okay, civil disobedience movement, when it was launched first time, it was ended with Gandhi Irwin Pact in 1931. Okay, so how Gandhiji was cheated by Viceroy Irwin. So all these things you have to write. How Gandhiji was made to attend this second roundtable conference in London. Okay, and later on when he came back, he found that Irwin didn't follow any of those commitments which he gave to Gandhiji, that he would release the political prisoners. Okay, so that he didn't do. So Gandhiji once again, when he came back to India 1932, he again relaunched civil disobedience movement. So civil disobedience movement was launched again in the year 1932. and when it was launched again in the 1932, what was the response? That also is very important. Okay, thank you. So tomorrow I'll give you some more questions. I'll discuss some more important questions. So uh, if you like the channel, you can subscribe and you can share the video. If you have any question, you can write in the comment box. Thank you.